Hello, everybody. Keith Ferrante here. How are you doing? Come on. I want to go right into friendship. I've been for a number of years. I wanted to put out a book on friendship because I started catching this revelation about 10 years ago. The Lord, well, my wife actually said 4 years ago, "You're not ready to put this out." I had actually outlined it. I had chapters and everything, and so fast forward 4 years so recently, my I started feeling like I should put out a book on friendship. I was talking about it all the time. I just That's kind of for me how I write books, is when I know the message is really ready inside of me. And there's a difference between you speaking a message by revelation and speaking a message out of reality. And so that was what my wife said. I'd been like 6 years into the revelation 4 years ago, and my wife didn't feel like I was deep enough in it, which I appreciate and trust her. I needed to get some more breakthrough in certain keys here, but so I wrote the book in this season, and it had similar chapters as what I had outlined 4 years ago. So I was on to something 4 years ago, but I just needed to deepen the authority. So now I'm excited. I just launched it. You can get it on Amazon. You can get even the audio version, which is super fun. They have an audio version available now, and Kindle version, and physical copy, and all types for all sizes of kinds of people, and for whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. But I got the book written, and I was having a hard time deciding what to how to what the subtitle should be. And my best friend Pedro, he was saying, "Bro, you can't put this book out until that subtitle is right." And so we kind of wrestled around for some days about it, and it was really good because it was an upgrade, even the subtitle. And I love when you put a book out. Here's the book. When you put a book out, it it's part of a season shift for you, and it's all actually an emphasis. It's a part of, I like to say, it's how God and you journey together and get to know each other better. And yes, other people get to come into your journey, and I love like having books. I have 20 some books now, and it's like it's fun whenever you're with somebody, and a lot of times I'm behind the scenes with somebody, just one on one, and it's like we have a chat, and I'm like, "Hey, let me give you this book. This could help kind of accelerate that conversation we were just having." And I love having that available, because that's my passion, to just let people in on any of the breakthroughs that I have, that they can have as well. And but the subtitle ended up being da, 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 "Where Transactions End and True Connection Begins." That's where we landed. Where transactions end and true connection begins. Um, why did I write this book? Because I really was trying to strike at the heart of business leaders, political leaders, even church leaders, and leaders in general that end up becoming transaction focused. They're just trying to get transactions. What's transaction? It's a business term for a transaction goods, getting something, exchanging dollars for goods, making a deal with somebody. And I wanted to strike at the heart of that, because that's where really why I wrote this, and why the Lord brought me on that journey 10 years ago, which, let me just take a few moments and tell you about the journey right out of chapter one. Chapter one, loneliness, the doorway to friendship. Whoa. Okay, how could something bad like loneliness be the doorway to friendship? Well, I remember writing my um, book on abundance, and I said, offense, the doorway out of poverty. So the Lord always kind of gives me, usually a stronghold reveals where the breakthrough is. So loneliness revealed I needed friendship. Poverty revealed I was lacking an abundant mindset. Offense revealed I was, so like I was dependent on people in an unhealthy way. So I love these doorways of, we don't want to be enemy focused, but we need to recognize where the enemy has a door into our life. And so loneliness um, was where this book started. I noticed there was a lot of books out there as I was kind of studying on friendship and what was out there and what was available. There was a lot of books out there on loneliness. They would the title, but there was would be loneliness, but there was very few books actually on friendship itself. I notice a lot of times people, it's easier for people to talk about the problem than talk about and have authority with the solution. It's either easier to diagnose loneliness and from a psychological place, from here's all of the reasons why loneliness has created suicide and depression and this and that. And it's like, okay, that's all fine, but I don't like to focus on that. I want to give a little touch on it. So the first chapter is pretty vulnerable. And I was talking about in the first chapter on loneliness that I had been traveling, and traveling was a God journey for me. I had pastored for 11 years. I went over to Vacaville, and then I was on staff there. But I ran a supernatural school. Heather and I went over and planted one over in Fiji with our local church, The Mission. It was a dream of our senior leader's heart, Dave Crone, for 10 some years, and including some people in Fiji. So we were over there, and that was great. And then came back home, and through a series of events, which I wrote about in my abundance book, the Lord revealed that I had a poverty mindset. So I was really provoked to find the breakthrough in that. So then I started traveling, and I was learning how to travel, and I was eventually traveling all over the world. It took a little while. Some of the mentors were giving me some open doors, and I was stewarding those, and I was learning how to, what's the appropriate way to invite yourself to a church, and how do you partner with a pastor? How do you build trust with the pastor where they want to invite you? Like I was learning like a church version of entrepreneurship. And I ended up writing some books, having products, but you have to get so all of that was a journey. So anyways, then I'm traveling for a couple years and traveling full time, and I was doing well for where I was at back then financially. And I remember Dano saying, you need to make at least this amount of money because it wears and tears your body. And so it was true. Like you're traveling all the time. Sometimes you travel 30 hours and preach 3 days, then you travel another 30 hours back. That wears your body out. And so all of that was a part of the journey. But my kids was a little bit younger then, probably 8th grade maybe, and 7th, 8th, 9th grade. They're a couple years apart, somewhere in that department. And I could tell it wasn't like a great rhythm for the family. I'd come home and I would be so tired, and I'd want to focus. Want to focus on the kids, and it's just a lot of work to be there emotionally for them because you just want to lay on the couch. It's like be a vegetable for like 3 or 4 days after giving out so much. And so there was an upgrade there that I was learning, but there was also challenges. So as I traveled for a couple years, I started getting a temptation everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, I was getting hit maybe by, like, the enemy would kind of highlight one person in about every conference or church I went to, just some different person, just a different lady. And I would, it was like a magnetization where when the enemy tempts it, it's not a sin to be tempted. We all get tempted. Even Jesus was tempted, but it's trying to pull your focus. And so I'm spending this extra energy. You have like 2 battles, or at least maybe 3 battles. I remember thinking back then, I have like 3 battles going on here. The battle of breaking through financially, the battle of what does that church or region or conference need breakthrough in for their event, and then this battle against this temptation. So you start getting worn down when you have, and maybe even the travel, the battle of the travel and the energy and all of that like folks, doing well with the family. So there was multiple battles going on. And so you're starting to kind of, everywhere I'm going, and it seemed like it was at least a year. Everywhere I went, it wouldn't lift. And I was telling mentors about it. I would tell Heather about it. I was doing all the right things. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't responding to the temptation in any way, a compromising way. But I was getting worn down by it. And after about a year, I remember I was over in a country in Europe, and I was at this place for a whole week, and I was just getting worn down. Even there was even like a spirit that came into my room, like a Jezebel lustful spirit. And I don't normally say that too much, but I literally saw it. And I had an intercessor in the room next door. I was traveling. I would travel sometimes with a different, like a guy or something, as a layer of intercession and protection. But all of that, I was doing all the right things, mentors, Heather, and it wasn't breaking the back of it. And I just was getting worn down. I'm like, I want to go the distance. I don't want to fall like I've seen many ministers fall. So I got to stop traveling. This is my money. I couldn't get any breakthrough. I didn't understand why it was there. I didn't have any clarity. I wasn't getting revelation from the Lord. I was like, why is this going on? Why am I getting hit with this? And so I stopped traveling. And at the same time, I was invited to do a local youth pastor position at the church, and felt like a demotion, but it was the Lord also. And it was actually it was an important part for me to see generations and learn how to value the next generation at a higher level. But when I stopped traveling, then the Lord talked to me and finally told me what the thing was. And he says, you're lonely. And it's not about your wife, it's about friends. You need friends. And I thought, well, I have all these friends. I have these guys, these pastors and itinerates like me, business people that support me. I hang out with them. I enjoy good food. I this and that, and we talk. It's like, no, that's not the kind of friend I'm talking about. Those are transactional friends, where transactions end and true connection begins. It was, I appreciated those people, and I was trying to be a friend, but I didn't, realize that that's a part of the business. You're being friendly in business, and that's important. But there's a difference between true friendship and transactional connections. And so it was, like you have to connect with them because they're your open door, they're your money, they're your opportunity. So it's like let's keep the friendliness. And even some of my mentors would teach me, it's like you have to pursue these guys, you have to build trust with them, and God will give you 3 or 4, and then then once you've really built that in to your heart, then he'll give you more. And I don't think there's anything really impure about that. I just think it was not hitting the loneliness. It wasn't dealing with the loneliness. And so I stopped traveling, and then I started trying to figure out what friendship is all about. And on a side note, I remember one of my mentors back then would say, Keith, you have favor to travel because of them. They opened doors for me, the different mentors. But we didn't really have that favor until we were in our 50s or maybe late 40s and 50s. Our kids were grown up. You have favor in your 30s. And just because you have the favor doesn't mean you should take it. I remember him saying that when I was traveling. It wasn't enough to stop me from traveling, but he was, because I was starting to reveal the struggle, and he was, different people were giving me this, and I just want to point that one out because that's true. Just my heart has always been, I want to go the distance, but I want to be able to get there and then not crash. I want to go to the highest place that God has for me, the fulfillment of my destiny. But I want to learn to go on a pace that's sustainable. And so sometimes you got to perceive when this kind of loneliness thing comes in. Okay, this is trying to tell you something. Don't go beyond that. Don't keep pushing, because you push beyond that, and eventually the temptation. The enemy can see where the crack is in us. And I was just with some folks recently. It's like, and I could see these patterns. It's like they accepted the favor that was handed to them, and then it just exposed some stuff that was already there. But when you increase the favor, increase the dollars, increase the people you're around, increase the opportunity, increase the power, increase the pull on you, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, those they're already cracks in the foundation. They become much bigger because the pressure's there. And I think that's the wisdom. As I was traveling, it was revealing a crack. I just didn't know it was there. It was just gnawing at me. And the favor was still there. I remember thinking, oh man, I'm going to stop traveling. There's a whole thing that you have, this momentum you get when you travel. And when you stop, you lose that. Like right now, I have probably one opportunity all year in terms of that old style of traveling where you're going from church to church. God's totally changed how I do things now. I do travel, but not in that way. But it did change. The momentum changes. And I saw that. I'm like, man, because if you keep traveling, you can get more and more momentum. You start getting bigger stages. You start getting more opportunities. And you keep working that thing. And you could take that all the way up. I found over the years, sometimes there's these opportunities that I'm not supposed to take. I remember even early on in my probably late 20s, I was invited to preach and do some crusades for 30,000 people. And that was like, oh my word, it's so awesome. And the opportunity was there, but it didn't happen. And then I started internationally. And when I went international, I was just meeting at some individuals' houses, with 10 people. And it's like, the Lord was like, this is how I wanted you to build. You could take this, but you shouldn't take everything. He's like, if you'd have taken that, you wouldn't have started your journey in the nations on a relational foundation. It's like, I want you to have relational foundations. I want you to build in the nations relationally. And so that's just sort of a side note in this whole journey. But pay attention to where the cracks sort of revealing themselves, because it's a great opportunity for us to get healing when God puts a little favor on us and it puts a little pressure on our marriage or a little pressure in our finances or a little inner healing thing that all of a sudden rises up. It's a good opportunity to get some healing, to just recognize, have I gone beyond where my favor is? And so traveling was revealing to me loneliness and in lack of true connection. I didn't yet know how to get those friendships really juicy. I'll talk about them at another time. But I just started on that journey. So I just want you to think, are you lonely? Do you, have you even recognized you're lonely? Now, some people have said it. I don't have friends. I don't have community. And I've tried and it doesn't really work out. And a lot of people just sort of kind of feel like they're just going to be that way. They don't want to try to break through the stronghold. They don't know how to do it. They're like, haven't really worked out for me. And so I'll just stay here in this very small little relational circle, family circle, people that I've known for a very long time, whatever it is, a spouse, a couple kids, or even just being alone. And I'm just, me and God's enough. And I'm like, yeah, you can do that. You can get to heaven on that. But let me tell you, that's where Elijah was. He was alone. And he got to a point in his breakthroughs where then that revealed the crack of loneliness. He's like, God, I'm all alone. I'm the only one. And the Lord's like, no, that's not true. There's 7,000 others. You just don't see them. You have an issue here. And he couldn't even see all the other guys going after the same thing. He was going after prophets and 100 prophets in the cave here. Obadiah, who was right within King Ahab and Jezebel's palace, serving the Lord. And he couldn't see that. And so God says, I got to get you into family. Friendship is another form of family. And we've really been going after that in this last season. Friends are family you choose. But they still can get in your heart there and become covenanted parts of a covenant part of you. But you have to really want to deal with the stronghold of loneliness. And I think that's where the first breakthrough is for every one of us, to be willing to deal with the stronghold of loneliness and not live there. So if you're lonely, there is hope for you, but you first got to get to recognize that you are lonely. That was the breakthrough for me. Oh, I am lonely. Till I can own it, then the Lord could start showing me the solution for it and the way out. That's why I wrote the book on friendship. And it's become such a treasure and it's given me so much. And even though I stopped looking for transactional relationships and I started looking for true heart connection, I got so much business out of that without even knowing that I was going to get business, finance, everything that I was trying to get through transaction, I actually got in the purity of friendship when I let go of trying to get something from somebody and I started caring about people's hearts. So I pray grace on you. I pray healing on anybody that's just in a place of loneliness. I pray God would just begin to pour out a spirit on you and show that He is a friend. He sets the lonely in families. And Lord, we give up that loneliness to you, Father. I know you don't want any of us to be lonely. You've got the body of Christ around us. One could be taken out, but two, have better return. There's a protection, 2 or 3. And so we just pray the just true family and true friendship would just be upon every person in Jesus' name. All right, let's chat again soon. Like this, share this, and put any questions you have about this conversation, and we will do our best to answer them. We will talk to you again. Peace.